Hi everyone, and welcome to this quick Godot tutorial on using visibility layers in Godot 4. By the end of this video, you'll know how to set specific visibility layers for your nodes via both the inspector panel and C# code, and you'll know how to use that to curl some objects in your renders. It's important to note that here we won't talk about physics layers, but only visibility layers. Although the two concepts sound the same, they're quite different and they don't have the same goal. And today we'll focus on showing or hiding objects thanks to visibility layers. Of course, don't forget that if you want to get the files for this tutorial directly, you can have a look at the GitHub repo with all my Godot tutorials over here. And as usual, since we'll be coding our logic in C#, make sure that you have a version of Godot with .NET enabled. But now with all that said, let's dive in and discover the basics of setting visibility layers for nodes in Godot 4 and C#. Just before diving into the tool itself, let's quickly recap why visibility layers are interesting. Like in many game engines, Godot implemented this tool because, first and foremost, visibility layers let us create more advanced effects, like multiple views and split screens, partial post-processing that only impacts a chunk of the scene, or dynamic rendering of some elements depending on the state of the game or the interactions of the player with the world, for example. Second, they can also help with organization and iterative design. By putting elements on different layers and conditionally showing or hiding them, you can better prepare complex scenes and edit just the part that you want without affecting the others. And finally, they're nice in terms of optimization and debug, cause they allow us to easily toggle off elements that aren't useful at this time to lighten the render workload, or to better isolate where the visual issues are coming from. Overall, visibility layers are a neat tool for making efficient, well-organized, and even more powerful games by giving us a finer control on the rendering of our scenes. Okay, now to begin with, let's see how to use visibility layers on our nodes directly in the editor, using the Nodes Inspector. Something to keep in mind is that these visibility options are available for nodes that use the canvas item or the visual instance 3D type, and of course all their derived types, meaning that they're available for a lot of types of nodes, but typically not for the very basic node type or even the node 3D type. But okay, so if you have a canvas item or a visual instance 3D, you'll see that in its inspector you have a property called visibility layer or layers with a little table of numbers. These cells represent all the layers that you can put your node on, so from 1 to 20, and as you can see we can simply click on a cell to toggle it on or off. Basically, using this table, we can very easily change the layer that our node is on and have it be on one or more layers at the same time. So our node will be on all the layers that are currently toggled on in this table. For example, this configuration, which is the default, means that the node is only on the visibility layer number 1. This one means that it's only on the layer number 2. And this one means that it's on both layers at the same time. Now, by default, Godot's 2D and 3D render settings are made so that you can see every layer at once. So changing the visibility layers won't have much effect if you leave it at that. The next step is therefore to discuss how to use mask culling to have those layers be shown or hidden in your game. And this time, the 2D and 3D workflows aren't exactly the same. Alright, having our game render nodes conditionally depending on the visibility layers can be a bit tricky, especially because this time it doesn't work the same in 2D and in 3D. This comes from the way that Godot was developed, with first a 2D only render engine and then a new 3D render engine a couple of years later, so that's why you actually have two separate tabs to take care of either 2D or 3D nodes. And though it means that each engine is a bit more optimized in its own style, sometimes it also causes some discrepancy in their usage, like here. But anyway, let's start with 3D since it's the simplest. we'll see that we have this super simple 3D scene with a camera 3D node, a directional light, and a mesh instance 3D that renders a white sphere. We'll also make sure that this sphere is not on the visibility layer number 1, but the layer number 2. Now you see that if we go into preview mode to see what our camera is rendering, for now we still see our sphere. And that's because at the top of our camera's inspector, in the curl mask property, every cell is toggled on by default, which means that our camera sees and renders every layer. To hide the layer number 2, we just need to toggle the second cell off, and you see that our sphere instantly disappears from the 3D camera preview. So this curl mask property is a table that is very similar to the node's visibility layers 1, except that it tells Godot which layers this camera 3D node should consider for rendering. Pretty straightforward. However, things are sadly a bit more complex when dealing with 2D. Because if you have a basic 2D scene, like this one with a couple of sprites, and you take a look at your camera 2D node, you'll notice that it doesn't have any curl mask property. So when working in 2D, the curl mask option is actually available not on the camera, but on the viewports that your 2D elements are children of. Indeed, if you look at the Godot docs, at the viewport API reference page, you see that it has a canvas curl mask property over here. But if you scroll to the top, you'll also notice that this viewport node type is actually abstract, meaning that it can be instantiated directly. Which is why, if inside the Godot editor you try to create a new node of type viewport, you'll see it's actually grayed out and you can't select it. On the other hand, we can pick its directly inherited type, the sub-viewport node type, that, of course, has the curl mask property too. Now, setting up a sub-viewport to fit the dimensions of the screen and properly match your scene preferences is not really the topic today, so I'm going to ignore this part and just assume that you have a sub-viewport container and a sub-viewport node, and that you've put all your 2D elements inside as children. But, of course, if you're curious about this, and typically how these nodes can be used to create a split screen in a game, feel free to drop a comment down below. Anyway, here you see that I put both my sprite 2D node and my camera 2D node under my sub-viewport node, and I made sure to have one sprite on the layer number 1 and the other on the layer number 2. So now if I go to my sub-viewport node and I play around with the curl mask property, you see that my sprites instantly toggle on and off accordingly in the editor viewport. Because remember that this time the culling isn't linked to a camera, but to the viewport itself, so it kind of makes sense that Godot can show us the result live in the viewport like this. So even if it's a bit more complicated, you see that Godot still allows us to use visibility layers and mask culling in 3D and in 2D to easily separate our scene render in multiple chunks, for example to create multiple screens, or temporarily hide an object, or apply some post-processing on just part of the scene, or even more. By the way, if you prefer to have some custom, clearer names for your layers than layer 1, layer 2, etc., then you can go to your project settings window and in the layer name section, pick either the 2D render or 3D render section, depending on the type of your game, and put specific names in the different inputs. Then when you come back to a visibility layers table or a curl mask table, you'll notice that when you hover a cell, you now have your own clear name displayed. Okay, and now, to wrap up this tutorial, let's quickly discuss another important thing about visibility layers, which is how to get or set them at runtime using C# code. Alright, so now that we know how to check and change visibility layers on our nodes via the inspector panel, let's take a look at the equivalent in C#. We'll focus on visual instance 3D node, but of course you can get similar APIs for canvas items as well. So suppose we attach a new C# script on our sphere in the basic 3D scene from before, called visibility controller, for example. We'll remove the process function and just use the ready function to test a few API calls. So because our node is a mesh instance 3D, which derives from visual instance 3D, we see it has a readily available layers property that we can get or set. If we print it to the console and run our scene, we see that we indeed get 2, which seems to correspond to the layer number 2 that we selected before. However, if we switched our sphere over to the layer number 3 and we restart the game, then you see we wouldn't get 3 this time, but instead 4. So why is that exactly? Well, the thing is that, like in many game engines, Godot's mask layers, be it the visibility layers we're studying today or the physics layers, rely on a system of bit mask to store it more efficiently in memory and to allow us to combine multiple layers at the same time. So the idea is that rather than just saying our layer's value is equal to the exact index of the layer, we use this layer index as the position of the bit to enable or disable in the layer's mask value. You can actually see this in the layers table too, when you hover a cell. Beneath the index of the layer, you see we have another line that tells us the position of the bit this layer controls and the related value. Now, if you're not too familiar with powers of 2 and bit masks, the gist is just that you put all the powers of 2 next to one another, and then you number them starting from 0. And finally, your bit mask is just a series of zeros and ones that tells the engine which slots are enabled and which ones are disabled, since ultimately the value of the mask is the sum of all powers of 2 that are enabled in the mask. Now again, if you don't get all the fine details in one go, it's not really an issue here. The thing to keep in mind is just that if you want to assign a new value to the layers property of your Visual Instance 3D directly, you can't just use the index of the layer directly. Instead, you need to use the corresponding power of 2 or a sum of powers of 2 if you want to enable multiple layers on your node. That being said, Godot actually provides us with a more easy-to-use set of APIs to get or set a specific layer in a node's visibility layers, which are aptly named getLayerMaskValue and setLayerMaskValue. So typically if we do a few prints like this, we'll first get a true or false boolean for whether or not our node is on the layer 1, 2 or 3, and then the corresponding mask value as a single integer. Here, since our sphere is just on layer number 2, we see that only the second print returns true and the mask value is 2 to the power of 1, meaning 2. But if we were to use setLayerMaskValue to disable this layer number 2 and instead put our sphere on layers 1 and 3, then you see our prints now reflect this change, and the new mask value is 5, because it's 2 to the power of 0, meaning 1, plus 2 to the power of 2, meaning 4. Also, just as a side note, if you want to check the state of your visibility layers in the inspector at runtime, don't forget that you can also go to the Godot editor, to the scene dock in the top left corner, and switch to the remote mode to see the runtime hierarchy of your scene and the runtime states of your node, and then you can simply select the sphere object in the hierarchy and you see it is indeed on the layers 1 and 3. But anyway, on that note, here you go. You now know how to use visibility layers in Godot 4 and csharp, and how to have your 3D and 2D scenes render objects conditionally thanks to those layers. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like it and subscribe to the channel to not miss the next ones. And of course, don't hesitate to drop a comment with ideas of Godot tricks that you'd like to learn. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and take care.